Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show in store for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this topic here. I'm not going to take too much of your time. As you guys know, Kawhi Leonard is one of my favorite players in the NBA. Been following him since 2015, I would say, 15, 16, thereabout. I thought he was a great player, had great potential. In 2019, he was able to exhibit his talents for the world to see by helping lead the charge for the Toronto Raptors to capture their first NBA championship in the history of that organization. Really incredible move. And then decided to leave the subsequent season to go to LA. I think it was a mistake. I think Kawhi should have stayed with Toronto, and he would have probably had a better chance to repeat. This is just my thoughts. I could be wrong, but according to what I read at the time, the Toronto Raptors were not willing to part ways with Pascal Siakam. And I think at the time, Kawhi Leonard wanted, I think he wanted Paul George, and they weren't willing to make that move, Masai Ujiri and those guys. Anyway, Kawhi gets to LA. He has one healthy run the first year, and they lose. They blow a 3-1 lead against the team that would end up becoming the NBA champions eventually, in 2 or 3 years later, in the Denver Nuggets. But since then, or since Kawhi Leonard's arrival with the Los Angeles Clippers, it's been mired in injuries and disappointment. There's 1 year he missed an entire season. There's another year, there are multiple years where there's another year where he got to the second round of the playoffs and got injured in Game 4. We never saw him again. Then there was last year where he came back and he got injured right before the playoffs, or got injured in Game 1, only played 2 games. And then we have this year where, although he played the most games he's played in years, I think since he was a San Antonio Spur, if I'm not mistaken, he got injured before the playoffs started, and he only played 1 game in the NBA playoffs. So it was a very disappointing campaign. But one person in the media believes that Kawhi Leonard is the worst superstar, not in NBA history, in the history of professional sports. And that person is Stephen A. Smith. Here's what's interesting about Stephen A. Smith before I get into his comments. Stephen A. Smith is just coming off of a show where he was apologizing to Kyrie Irving for all of his slanderous comments about Kyrie over the years. He even went as far as telling Kyrie Irving to retire, something that he's also said Kawhi Leonard should do as well. And I found it to be so coincidental that Stephen A. Smith just finished apologizing to Kyrie for all of his comments and the negative things he had been saying about him over the last few years. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm done with Kyrie. I need to get somebody else. And he looks over and he's like, who can I get? I got it. I can get Kawhi Leonard. I'm going to make Kawhi Leonard my new punching bag for the next 2-3 years. So what we want to do is we want to play some of what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Kawhi Leonard yesterday on ESPN First Take. And then want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
I don't mean this towards the both of you. This is not directed at you, Andrea, nor you, Jay. I'm just talking about basketball analysts out there who praise Kawhi Leonard so much. I'm sick of y'all. I'm really sick of y'all. This is the worst superstar. Now, the word superstar is applicable here because he is a superstar when healthy on the basketball court. This is not a conversation about his ability when healthy. He is a 2-time champion, a 2-time NBA Finals MVP. The brother is a big-time basketball player. Jay, this is not a discussion about his skills and how elite he is. This is the worst superstar. I can make a case this is the worst superstar in the history of sports. He is a nightmare. You're talking about the first 4 years of his time with the Clippers, he's averaged 40.3 games a season. 40.3. He played 68 games this past year, and then again, he wasn't available for players. Do you know that Kawhi Leonard hasn't been available for 15 of the last 19 Clippers playoff games? Do you know that the year that they went to the conference finals, which, by the way, was without him because he got hurt before they got to the conference finals, do you know they haven't won a playoff series since? And this man, somehow, some way, first let me confess, I'm kind of jealous. I'm kind of jealous, Jay, because somehow, some way, no matter what his lack of availability is, don't you notice how that's never the issue come negotiating time? Right around the time it's time to negotiate, the brother available. Right around the time it's time for him to get his money, he's on the court. Right around the time it's time for him to get his money. I mean, you see him in the Clipper uniform, all right? But then, the second the man get his money, you got an APB out for him, and you can't find him, okay? And then here's the thing. This is the thing, because that's injury-related, Andrea, and I get that. Put them up on the screen because I want to look at Jay and Andrea. That's injury-related, so I get it. Andrea, where I'm so disgusted with him, he makes no effort to promote the game, to promote his team, to promote the NBA brand. Zero. Even, do y'all know with his New Balance commercials, you had little kids speaking because he wouldn't talk? I mean, think about that. Your box office, that's the word that I throw in because that's bringing additional dollars into the equation. So it's not just about personality. It's about how that directly impacts your revenue stream as well. I am saying to you, whatever profitability, whatever revenue stream the Clippers have created, whatever's going on with them, one could easily argue it ain't because of Kawhi Leonard, because he ain't been there to really, really produce for them. Now, you brought up Podcast P, Mr. Paul George himself. Well, since you watched this podcast, did you watch when he tried to come at me with that nonsense on Podcast P last summer? And we got into that discussion about Kawhi Leonard. I bet you Jay saw it. I'm telling you right now. He sat up there and he was like, Kawhi, Kawhi, Kawhi. And I stood right in front of him. And I made my case. He didn't have a comeback. And you know I love me some Paul George. And you know what else I brought up? Paul George gets injured, Andrea. We literally are aghast. We're like, damn, I hope his career ain't over. Because we literally saw the evidence. And we're like, oh, this is bad. You understand? We've seen Kawhi drop 38, walk back to the bench, look perfectly fine. The next day, he ain't available. We've seen Ty Lue with this disgust and frustration on his face because the morning shoot-around, the brother there, he shows up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30 shows up, and then he's alerted that Kawhi Leonard is not available. And by the way, it wasn't from Kawhi Leonard. It was from his handlers or somebody else. This is the thing that you do. You come to the table. You want your money. You want the helicopters. You want the masseuse. You want the pedicures. You want all the perks. All of it. I mean, all of it. Because he don't miss much of it, okay? You want all of that. But the availability ain't there. And then when you look at a guy like Steve Ballmer and you look at Lawrence Frank and all of these guys, do you really think I'm coming on national TV? Jay looking at me right there. You really think I'm coming on national TV and I'm saying this without having talked to anybody?
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. You know, he's the worst superstar. He does nothing to market the game and all of that. My question is the following. Is he saying Kawhi Leonard is the worst superstar based on the fact that he's not available? Because based on the information that I have, that I think Stephen A. Smith has, and a lot of people have watching this show, the primary reason Kawhi Leonard has been missing games over the last few years is because of what? Because of the fact that he has been injured. And I don't believe Kawhi Leonard has been faking his injuries. Kawhi has legitimately been injured. These are things that the Clippers medical staff can attest to. These are things that doctors who perform surgery on him can attest to. So Kawhi has been missing games due to his injury. Not for the fact that he's missing games because he simply does not want to play. And he doesn't draw that distinction clearly enough, in my view. But then he takes it a step further and says he does nothing to market or promote the game. What specifically he means by that, I don't know. Because he didn't really give any details. Market the game in what way? Do you mean do commercials? He does that. Do you mean attend events for the Clippers? when they were unveiling the new arena and all of that. He does that. I've seen him do that on multiple occasions. Do you mean him skipping out on All-Star games? He attends All-Star games. He speaks to the press at All-Star games. If he's interviewed at the end of games, he speaks to the media. So when he says he does nothing to market the game, I'm not exactly sure what the hell Kawhi Leonard needs to be doing. And number two, can you give me an example of somebody who is? What's the thing? Let's look at LeBron, that LeBron does to market the game beyond his basic responsibilities. LeBron shows up in place when he's healthy. LeBron does his commercials. LeBron speaks to the media. There are some cases where LeBron doesn't even speak to the media because he's upset, but he goes about his normal NBA duties. So what exactly is Stephen A. Smith talking about? Here's what I personally believe, as someone looking at the situation from afar. I believe that Stephen A. Smith has a gripe against Kawhi Leonard. And I think it's something that he's not alluding to on television. But he's making it seem like as if, oh, he's just giving you a standard sports analysis. And that's the same bullshit lie he said about Kyrie. You remember when he said it's never personal with Kyrie Irving? You remember that? It's never personal. It's never personal. And then comes out years later to admit, oh, it was personal. I don't know what Kawhi Leonard did to Stephen A. Smith. Maybe he didn't dap him up in the hallway. Maybe he ain't smile at him. I heard a time when Stephen A. Smith was on his diss tour and they asked Kawhi Leonard, have you been hearing the criticism and all that? Kawhi's like, I don't watch TV, so I don't know what anybody's saying. Stephen A. Smith looked bothered by that because he feels like as if, wait, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm Stephen A. Smith. You need to be hearing what I'm saying. And he wonders why. Stephen A. Smith wonders why so many people within his community have an issue with him because he has this fervor when he goes after athletes that look just like him. He just finished off with Kyrie, and now he's like, let me start with Kawhi Leonard for the next few years. And you wonder why people don't like you. You wonder why. To say that he is the worst superstar in NBA history? Really? If I'm not mistaken, isn't Kawhi Leonard a multiple All-NBA team player? Isn't he a multiple defensive player of the year? Isn't he a multiple-time All-Star? He just made the All-Second NBA team this year. Hasn't he won championships? Hasn't he won finals MVPs? So what would constitute him being the worst superstar of all time? Because he doesn't play games because he's injured? What? And this is, anyway, that's y'all man. I can understand if Kawhi Leonard was somebody that never delivered and was always injured. But when he was healthy, he's always delivered or played very well. But in the case of Stephen A. Smith, he's saying, I know he's not playing because of his injuries, but he's the worst superstar ever. And what's the basis for it? Because he doesn't market the game. And nobody sat back to ask on the panel, but Stephen A. Smith, I'm really stupid and you're really smart. Can you explain to me by what specifics you're talking about in terms of marketing the game? What specifically are you talking about? Market the game in what way? Can you give me some examples of players that market the game in a particular way that Kawhi Leonard hasn't? And you'll find out there are no examples. This is just another case of Stephen A. Smith going out there and try to use his bully pulpit to basically bully players that maybe don't dance to his tune of his drums or whatever the hell it is. Something wrong with Stephen A. Smith. And the reason I am saying that is because Stephen A. Smith seems to be a person that believes that he is never wrong. And it's one of the reasons he gave that weak-ass, watered-down apology to Kyrie Irving. He's like, I'm wrong. Although I'm rarely wrong, but I'm wrong. And it's like, why did you even bother? Stephen A. Smith is one weird dude. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comment. And then one last part. And then the part that kills me, Stephen A. Smith goes out there and says he's the worst. But the minute somebody else says something about Stephen A. Smith, he wants to go do an hour-long podcast. Can you imagine if NBA players were as sensitive as Stephen A. Smith as a man? Imagine what they would be doing. I'm out.